Hello and welcome. My name is Simone Griesser and I'm talking about the psychological distance in German and English brand language of 8 international brands. Language until now has been analyzed for sentiment or for content with keywords. So companies analyze customer communication for positive and negative words to know customer opinions about products, services or marketing activities. Companies also analyze customer or employee communication for certain keywords to automate workflow. In this talk, I'm presenting a new view on language. Language can also be psychologically close or distant. There are 3 possible use cases for industry. Psychological distance can be used to position a brand, a product or service. It can be used to measure uncertainty, or it can be used in linguistic matching to see how this may help to improve communication effectiveness. In this talk, I am presenting the first potential use case using psychological distance to position a brand. Psychological distance is an information processing theory from social psychology. According to the construal level theory of psychological distance influences our preferences and decision making. It starts with the notion that our human minds process real-world objects depending on how psychologically close or distant they are in reference to here, now and the self. So the reference point for psychological distance is right here, right now and ourselves. So the present really. But because we're unable to experience what is not present, we need to mentally travel to a different context. The longer we mentally travel to a different context, the more our minds abstract information and psychological distance increases. For example, if I'm asking you, what did you do last night? You would be able to remember a lot of different details about it. What did you do? When did you do it? With who did you interact with? How did you feel? You may even remember information that is seemingly unrelated. If I'm asking you, however, what did you do last Christmas? You remember the most important things. You remember your Christmas routine, but you wouldn't be able to remember what did you do every single hour of the Christmas day. And you wouldn't be able to remember seemingly unrelated odd information. And this is because of the information abstraction that takes place. As I have hinted, psychological distance has different dimensions. Temporal distance refers to time. And there's different manifestations of temporal distance in language. The word tomorrow is a temporal indication. That is a psychologically close word because it's very specific. Tomorrow refers to the day after today. The word soon is also a temporal indication, but it is psychologically distant because it may refer to the next couple of hours, the next couple of days, or the next couple of weeks. It's not entirely clear. Hypothetical distance is another dimension of psychological distance, and it refers to the likelihood or probability of events or situations. Whatever is likely to happen is psychologically close, and what is unlikely to happen is psychologically distant. The word likely is an indicator of hypothetical distance, and the word unlikely is also an indication of hypothetical distance in language. Spatial distance refers to physical actual distance, and there are many indications of spatial distance in language. The word here refers to the place that we are right now. So it's a psychologically close word. The word there refers to another place. So it's a spatial indication that is psychologically distant. Social distance refers to the social relationships that we have in our lives. And again, there are different social distance indicators in language. The word friend, for example, is psychologically close because a friend is much closer to the self than another person, such as a neighbor or a boss. So the word boss is also a social indicator of psychological distance, but it is psychologically more distant because the relationship is different. What is the relationship between psychological distance and brands? The purpose of brands, according to Keller, is to differentiate one company from another in the marketplace. So it's about positioning a brand and its company uniquely and distinctively. Psychological distance can be used to measure brand positioning. The advantage of using psychological distance is that it is an actual customer-centric measurement how consumers perceive a brand. A brand is positioned with brand communication, and that's why some brands have even developed their own designated brand language to ensure that the brand values, the brand image are consistently communicated in the same way and the brand positioning is strengthened. As consistency is key, the assumption is that brand language should be the same for different types of languages. So, for example, the brand Chibo should communicate in the same psychologically distant or close way in English and in German. There shouldn't be any difference. I have tested this assumption with Twitter brand language. Twitter is an important platform for customer relationship management. I've selected 8 internationally known brands from the BrandWatch report, and the brands I've selected are active on Twitter in both English and German, and they have 2 separate Twitter handles. I collected the data on the 13th of January with a historical keyword search with Twitter R from the RCRAN repository. I collected 800 tweets per Twitter handle, so 1,600 tweets per brand. I processed and stored the data with R. So next, an example of the data processing using an example from Dr. Oetker's English Twitter handle. In the first step, I removed punctuation, emoticons and URLs. In the second step, I removed stop words. Stop words are words that carry no meaning by themselves, but they are used in combination with other words, such as out or these or the. The has no meaning by itself, it only has meaning in combination with the melting middle. So melting middle are the content words. In NLP study, usually only content words are analyzed. So in step 3, the remaining content words are made lowercase, but this has been done for English brand tweets only because German nouns start with capital letters. In the 4th and final step, I assign psychological distance ratings to the remaining content words. I used a lexical approach based on 2 corporas with concreteness and abstractness ratings. Abstractness relates well to the mental travel notion. The longer we need to mentally travel to a different context, the more our mind abstracts information and psychological distance increases. So, concrete words are used for things that are psychologically close, and abstract words are used for things that are psychologically distant. At the moment, only 2 corpora exist, one in English, one in German. The English corpus is the older one. It contains concreteness ratings for 40,000 words, ranging from 1 abstract to 5 concrete. Each word in this corpus has been rated by at least 18 different individuals, making the corpus very robust and reliable. The German corpus contains concreteness rating for 350,000 words, ranging from 0 abstract to 10 concrete. The corpus has been compiled with an initial database, including 3,266 concreteness ratings. Upon this initial database, a learning algorithm was placed that computed the remaining concreteness ratings. So the learning algorithm computed concreteness ratings for 346 and some words. So that's why the German corpus is bigger, because it relies on machine learning. Once I've assigned a psychological distance rating to each remaining content word in the tweet, I computed the mean and median ratings per tweet. I did that because natural language is not always normally distributed, and I wanted to have 2 complementary measures of dispersion. Next, I normalized the English psychological distance ratings to range from 0 abstract to 10. The unit of analysis is brands. The unit of observations are tweets in English and in German. And finally, I tested for significant differences between English and German brand language. The results are that psychological distance rating for English brand tweets are significantly different from the average psychological distance rating for German brand tweets. This is not what I had assumed. I had assumed that brand language for a specific brand should not be different in English and in German. This difference is as such that English brand language is psychologically closer than German brand language. I found the same thing also for the psychological distance median ratings. As the figure shows, all differences between English and German brand language per brand are highly significant except for Volkswagen VW. What does this mean? It means that only VW Volkswagen uses psychological distance in its brand language on Twitter consistently and therefore effectively positions the brand because there is no difference between the English and the German brand language of Volkswagen. The other 7 investigated brands go opposite ways with their brand language. With their English brand tweets, they psychologically approach consumers, but with their German brand tweets, they move psychologically away from consumers. With this inconsistent use of brand language, they ineffectively position the brand because they dilute the brand positioning or even potentially harm the brand positioning. A psychologically close brand positioning is perceived by consumers subconsciously as accessible, affordable. Consumers prefer more choice for psychologically close brands and they view price as a sacrifice. In contrast, psychologically distant brands, they are perceived as exclusive, attractive and desirable. Consumers subconsciously prefer less choice for psychologically distant brands and they view price as a quality indicator. So a psychologically distant brand positioning makes sense for luxury or premium brands, but it doesn't make sense for a brand such as Lidl. Lidl stands for value for money. They are selling good quality groceries at a very affordable price in a functional store layout. There is no experiential shopping and dreaminess about it. It's not like Marks & Spencer or any other upmarket luxury food store. Looking now ahead, the current research has investigated brands that originate in Germany. So it would be interesting to study Anglo-Saxon brands for comparison to see whether there is a possible country of origin effect. Another interesting research avenue is to compile a concreteness abstractness corpus for a new language so that psychological distance can be compared across different languages and see how that deviates from different linguistic regions or even cultures. A final research avenue is to measure uncertainty with hypothetical distance in written language. If you remember before, I talked about hypothetical distance being part of psychological distance and it measuring the likelihood or the probability of events. And given the current situation with Corona, there is a lot of uncertainty. Some people may focus on what is important right now, right here, so they're focusing on the bare essential, but other people have already started to plan a bit ahead. So it's quite an interesting time to see how people think and feel about different things.